The mountain air was crisp, the kind that bit at exposed skin and made breath hang in soft white clouds. Up on the rugged ridge where the pines thickened, Jeremiah Boone lived alone in the cabin he'd built with his own 2 hands. His life was simple: hunting, tending to his small garden, and dreaming of companionship. Jeremiah was a man of the mountains. Quiet and solitary, a virgin not because of shame but because of circumstance. The rugged isolation had kept him from knowing another soul beyond the occasional trapper or passing trader. Now in his mid-30s, he longed for a partner, a woman to share the quiet beauty of the wilderness. Letters arrived monthly, each a glimpse into a hopeful future. His mail-order bride Lila was a woman from the eastern states, a place Jeremiah only knew from stories and old maps. She was described as gentle, kind, and with a love of the land. Jeremiah's heart ached with anticipation, imagining the day she'd arrive. He'd prepared the cabin, cleaned the worn floorboards, fixed the roof after last winter's storms, and gathered fresh food from the forest. Every morning, he scanned the dusty mountain road below, hoping to catch sight of a woman walking up the winding trail. Weeks passed, then months. Finally, one bright afternoon, a stagecoach rattled into view, kicking up dust in its wake. Jeremiah's heart pounded. This had to be her. The stagecoach stopped at the bottom of the ridge. The door opened, and a girl stepped down. She was nothing like the delicate woman in his letters. The girl was heavy-set, round-faced with cheeks flushed from the climb. Her clothes were plain but neat, her boots muddy. She smiled shyly, eyes bright but uncertain. Jeremiah blinked, unsure what to say. "Are you, Leela?" he asked gently. She nodded. Jeremiah swallowed hard. The mountain man and his mail-order bride had both been waiting for this moment, 2 strangers bound by hope, facing an uncertain future in the wild heart of the mountains. The first evening after Lila's arrival felt like a fragile truce between 2 strangers who had only just met. Jeremiah watched as she cautiously stepped into the cabin, glancing around at the simple furnishings, the rough wooden table, the bed covered in homespun blankets, the small fireplace crackling with warmth. "I hope the journey wasn't too hard," Jeremiah said, his voice low and steady. Leela gave a small smile, brushing a strand of chestnut hair from her face. "It was different than I expected, but I'm glad to be here." Jeremiah nodded, trying to hide the swirl of questions inside him. The letters had painted one picture, but reality was always more complicated. That night, they shared a simple meal: cornbread, venison stew, and wild herbs Jeremiah had gathered. Lila ate slowly, as if the mountain air made every bite weigh heavier. "I'm not sure how I'll fit in here," she admitted quietly, looking down at her hands. Jeremiah shrugged, uncomfortable with the silence but unsure how to bridge it. "It's a hard place for anyone, but if you're willing, I'll teach you everything. How to survive, how to tend the garden, how to live with the land." Lila's eyes lifted, hope flickering. "I want that." The days that followed were a trial for both. Jeremiah showed Lila how to gather firewood and trap small game. She struggled at first, her body unaccustomed to the physical demands. Yet, beneath her awkwardness, there was a determination Jeremiah admired. "I never thought I'd be strong enough for this," she said one afternoon, wiping sweat from her brow. "Strength isn't just in muscles," Jeremiah said softly. "It's in the heart." Slowly, a rhythm formed between them. Lila learned the ways of the forest, the songs of birds, the whisper of the wind through pine needles. Jeremiah learned to see beyond the surface, to the woman beneath. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of gold, Leela looked at Jeremiah and smiled genuinely. "This place, it's growing on me." Jeremiah smiled back, the weight in his chest easing just a little, but deep inside, both knew the mountain was unforgiving. And their journey had only just begun. The mountain seemed to watch them with an unforgiving eye. Its rocky cliffs and dense forests, a constant reminder that survival was never guaranteed. For Jeremiah and Lila, the early days of tentative partnership began to give way to deeper challenges both from the land and from within themselves. One crisp morning, Jeremiah woke to find Lila standing outside the cabin, her face drawn and pale. "I'm feeling weak," she admitted, clutching her stomach. Jeremiah frowned. The rough mountain air and hard labor were taking their toll. He had hoped the fresh food and clean water would help her regain strength, but the mountain had its own way of testing those who lived on it. "We need to get you some rest," he said, his voice firm but gentle. Over the next few days, Jeremiah took on all the work, hunting and gathering while Leela stayed close to the fire. He watched her struggle against frustration and helplessness, but also saw a spark of fierce determination in her eyes. One afternoon, As the sun filtered through the pine branches, Lila forced herself outside, leaning heavily on a walking stick Jeremiah had fashioned for her. "I want to help," she said, voice trembling but resolute. Jeremiah nodded, pride warming his chest. "We'll take it slow." Together, they worked on smaller tasks, repairing a broken fence, tending the garden, stacking firewood. Each day Lila grew stronger, her body adapting to the mountain's demands. But the mountain was not just a place of quiet hardship. One evening, as they sat by the fire, shadows deepening around them, Jeremiah spoke quietly. "Why did you really come here, Lila?" She looked into the flames, eyes distant. "I was scared back home. The city wasn't kind, and I thought maybe this wilderness might be a fresh start." Jeremiah reached out, his rough hand covering hers. "We both came looking for something different. Maybe we'll find it here, together." A sudden howl echoed through the night wolves circling nearby. They tensed, readying for whatever might come. The mountain had more trials in store. But for now, they faced it side by side. Winter was creeping into the mountains, and the air had turned sharp and cold. Jeremiah and Lila had settled into a rhythm, learning not just to survive but to live. The cabin, once quiet and lonely, now held a warmth that neither had expected. One evening, as a pale moon rose over the pines, a sudden flicker of orange light caught Jeremiah's eye. Smoke curled up from the far edge of the ridge. Something was burning. "Fire," he said grimly, grabbing his coat. "We need to check it out." Lila hurried after him, her breath visible in the cold night air. They hurried toward the blaze and found a nearby homestead in flames, its owners gone but their livestock scattered and panicked. The fire was spreading fast, threatening to leap to the forest. Jeremiah shouted for Lila to help him dig a firebreak in the dry brush. Working together in the cold, they fought the flames, their breaths ragged and hands raw. The fire was relentless, but their determination was stronger. After hours, the fire was contained. But the night had left them exhausted and shaken. Around the dying embers of their own fire back at the cabin, Jeremiah looked at Lila with new respect. "You're tougher than you think," he said softly. Lila smiled tiredly. "I'm learning. And you're more than just a mountain man. You're patient, kind. I never expected to find that here." They sat close, the silence between them filled with unspoken feelings. Over the next weeks, the hard work forged more than survival skills. It forged a bond. They shared stories beneath the stars of Lila's life in the city, of Jeremiah's childhood among the trees. One chilly morning, Lila handed Jeremiah a bundle of dried herbs she had carefully gathered. "For your stew," she said shyly. He took it, heart swelling with gratitude. The mountain was still wild, and the future uncertain, but together, they had become something new, a pair, not just surviving, but slowly becoming a family. The first light of dawn spilled softly through the frost-covered pines, casting long shadows over the cabin. Inside, Jeremiah stirred awake, his eyes settling on Lila sleeping peacefully beside him. The fire in the hearth crackled gently, its warmth a comfort against the biting cold outside. Months had passed since Lila's arrival. The awkwardness and uncertainty had given way to quiet understanding and companionship. The mountain, once a harsh and lonely place, now felt like home. Jeremiah rose quietly and stepped outside, the crunch of snow beneath his boots the only sound. The world was still wrapped in a blanket of white. He breathed in the crisp air, thinking of how much had changed. Lila joined him on the porch, wrapped in a thick shawl. She smiled, the glow in her eyes reflecting the pale morning light. "I never imagined this life," she said softly, "but now, I wouldn't trade it for anything." Jeremiah reached out, taking her hand in his rough one. "We came here looking for something, maybe peace, maybe a place to belong. I think we found it." They stood side by side, watching the sun rise over the mountain peaks, the promise of a new day stretching out before them. In the distance, the forest whispered secrets of survival and resilience. But for Jeremiah and Lila, the greatest strength lay not just in the land, but in the bond they had forged, one built on patience, trust, and love. The mountain had tested them, shaped them, and in the end, brought two unlikely souls together, not as strangers, not as mere survivors, but as partners, ready to face whatever the wild world had in store. With hearts steady and spirits strong, they stepped forward into the light of their new life hand in hand, ready for whatever came next.